Hello, and welcome to the Candidates Forum for Los Angeles County Superior Court Office number 130, presented by the League of Women Voters of Los Angeles County. I am Margot Reig, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Los Angeles County, which is composed of 10 local leagues. We are a nonpartisan grassroots organization working to promote and expand voting rights and ensure everyone is represented in our democracy. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the county, state, and national levels. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose any candidate for any office. We put on candidate forums as part of our voter service activity so that voters can listen to the people vying to represent them in county government. Los Angeles County Superior Court judges are elected locally or appointed by the governor to 6-year terms. In order to run for judge, a lawyer must be a member of the California State Bar and have been in practice for at least 10 years. Leading up to the March primary, the League of Women Voters is conducting forums with all 9 contested judicial seats, which will be posted on YouTube. The moderator for our forum this evening is Dolores Gonzalez Hayes. Dolores is a member of the Whittier League and has held positions as Senior Policy Advisor to a member of Congress, Executive Director and Policy Director in the nonprofit sector, National Community Development Manager of a national bank, and Housing Director in local government. The candidates this evening have agreed to the League's rules, which require that they speak only about themselves and that they adhere to the time limits. We thank our candidates this evening, running in seat number 130, Christopher Darden and Leslie Gutierrez. Candidate Osmond Taylor was not able to attend this evening. And now, Dolores, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Margot, and welcome candidates to today's forum. We will begin with your opening statements in alphabetical order, and you will have 1 minute each. Mr. Christopher Darden, you may begin.
Thank you. Thank you, League of Women Voters. I am Christopher Darden. You may remember me from some famous cases. You may have read about me. You may have read about my #1 New York Times bestseller, In Contempt. I've been a practicing lawyer in Los Angeles for 44 years. I was a deputy district attorney for 16 years, where I prosecuted gang cases, child killings, drug cases, human trafficking, and just a variety of different kinds of felonies. I also investigated officer-involved shootings on behalf of the district attorney in the county of Los Angeles. I am a former law professor. I'm a teacher, a professor at Santa Monica Community College, and I am a local activist. I advocate for the rights of crime victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darden. Ms. Leslie Gutierrez.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. A little bit about me. I'm a mom, I'm an immigrant, and I'm a lifelong public servant. I've been rated well qualified by the Los Angeles County Bar Association for this position of judge in seat 130. I've been endorsed by over 40 judges who believe that I have what it takes to be a great bench officer. I'm also endorsed by the Los Angeles Times. I emigrated to the United States when I was an adult, and it was difficult to have to learn a new society, new customs, new language. But I worked really hard. And within a few years, I put myself through law school while working. And I ended up graduating at the top of my class from Southwestern Law School. I graduated in the top 1% due to my hard work. I've worked on all sides of the criminal justice system. I've worked as a criminal defense attorney, and for the last 12 years, I've been serving you as a deputy district attorney. But I've also externed for a federal judge. I believe that my qualifications speaks for themselves, and I hope that you will vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. It allowed us to know more about your candidacy. So the following are questions to be answered by each candidate per timing rules, which is 1 minute. And the questions will be the same for both of you. So the first question is, overall, do you feel the criminal justice system works fairly and effectively in Los Angeles County? And if not, why not? Do you think Los Angeles County courts do a good job of handling civil cases? And if not, why not? The first one to answer the question will be Leslie Gutierrez.
Thank you. And thank you for the question. I believe that we can always do better. There's always improvement that we can have within the criminal justice system to make it more inclusive for everyone. Currently, we're focused a lot on mental health diversion and drug diversions, but what we're missing is the programs. We need more programs to be able to have these two tools actually work the way they were intended. So I do believe that there is some improvement that needs to be made in the criminal justice system. With regards to the civil system, I don't work in it, but I know that it's very congested. I know that there's programs that the courts are doing where they assign a case to one judge, and that's helping with the congestion in the civil arena. But we need more judges, and we need more judges to be able to move all of these cases in a quicker manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Christopher Darden, please.
Thank you. I practice in the criminal courts, but I also practice in the civil courts. I have a very robust civil practice, and I've practiced in all kinds of cases, unlawful detainers, unemployment issues, employment issues, discrimination, and things of that nature. The civil court side of the Superior Court at this point is overwhelmed and overburdened. And the primary reason for that is, one, the pandemic and a plethora of eviction cases. And number two, the criminal courts. The criminal courts are overwhelmed and overburdened, and criminal cases are the first priority. We've got to move these criminal cases along as best we can. And the best way to do that is to set time limits on how criminal cases proceed through the criminal courtroom. You know, judges need to set motion dates, cutoff dates, and insist that lawyers not continue cases over and over without good cause. A good cause is what the penal code actually requires before cases are continued, particularly beyond the statutory dates.
Thank you very much, both of you. The next question is, to what extent have you practiced criminal law, family law, complex civil litigation, and what types of clients have you represented? Mr. Darden.
I've been practicing criminal law for going on 44 years. I first joined the district attorney's office in March of 1981. I was a prosecutor for 16 years. I prosecuted gang cases, family violence cases, human trafficking cases, child murders and things like that. I also investigated officer-involved shootings. So my experience as a criminal lawyer is extensive, but for the past 25 years, I've also practiced as a civil rights lawyer and a criminal law defense attorney. And I've represented all kinds of people. My list of clients doesn't include a whole lot of rich people. I represent average folks, folks who otherwise wouldn't have access to expensive lawyers and all the resources I might bring to a criminal case. I consider myself a lawyer for the people. I always have been. That's always been my mission, justice for the little person.
Thank you very much. Ms. Leslie Gutierrez.
Thank you very much. For the last almost 13 years, I've been practicing criminal law. Before that, when I was in law school, I externed for a federal judge where I did have to review civil rights cases as well as habeas corpus petitions and some bankruptcy proceedings. Since I've been in the district attorney's office, the last 8 years of my career, I've been focusing on the prosecution of crimes that affect the most vulnerable victims in our society: children, women, and elderly. Most of these crimes involve child molestation, involve medical records and involve DCFS records. All of these records are protected under different laws. I have to be familiar with HIPAA. I have to be familiar with education laws. I have to be familiar with the welfare and institution codes. I have to be familiar with the rights that protect not only the victims, but also those records. So even though I'm doing criminal law, my work in criminal law is heavily affected by other laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. If you observed a party in your courtroom being poorly represented by an unprepared or ineffective lawyer, how would you handle the situation? Mr. Darden?
Well, I think it would be important if I am the judge, and I hope that I will be the judge. It's important that the court intervene. The court has a duty, I believe, to also ensure that a defendant is properly and effectively represented by counsel. I would inquire of counsel, what have you done so far on behalf of your client? What are your plans? What is your strategy, at least in terms of trial preparation? Not only what have you done, but what else do you intend to do, to the extent that you can share it with the court? And what can the court do to assist you to ensure that going forward, you're properly prepared and ready to address the issues confronting your client? And finally, I'd ask the defendant, how do you feel about your lawyer? Are you being properly represented? Is he or she or they doing everything that you think is necessary in your case? I believe that even defendants and litigants have a right to address the court and to be heard.
Thank you. It's Leslie Gutierrez.
Thank you. I think from a moral standpoint, we want to believe that we would intervene, but unfortunately, from an ethical standpoint and from a judicial point of view, we're not allowed to do that. As a judicial officer, you have to be neutral. You cannot help one side or the other. And if there is someone who is performing in a way that is subpar, the defendant has a right to have a counsel of his choice. And that's a right that the court cannot interfere with. That issue is taken up on appeals, and there is a remedy for that, for ineffective assistance of counsel. It can be also taken up during motions when a new attorney comes in and tries to challenge either the conviction or a plea. But that's not something that a judge can interfere with on his own unless there is conduct that is dishonest, conduct that is so subpar that it amounts to something that should be reported to the bar. If that is the case, then the judge has an ethical duty to report it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you became aware of unethical conduct on the part of a trial advocate in a case in which you were presiding, how would you handle it? Do you believe judges should be required to report attorney misconduct? Ms. Leslie Gutierrez.
Thank you. There is actually an ethical rule, Rule 8.3, that all bench officers, they are lawyers, and all lawyers have to abide by. And it's a rule that was put in existence last year in 2023. And if we were to see something like that, we are, not only should we do it from a moral standpoint, but we are required by the bar to report any actions that are akin to a crime or dishonesty or anything like that, abuse of power, misconduct. We are required to report it to the bar. And that's something that is taken very seriously. And that's something that we have to do as members of the bar. So it's not that, should we do it? We have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Darden.
Well, I think there are cases and situations that are more severe than others. Sometimes counsel, and in the heat of argument, in the heat of the moment, for instance, may make a statement or a comment that is otherwise inappropriate. But the question is whether or not it is unethical. Obviously, if counsel commits a crime before the bench, certainly that is something to be reported. And the rule is clear that unethical conduct has to be reported. But there are those occasions that, well, that are questionable, that aren't that serious. I'd always, ask counsel, number one, come up. What are you doing? Do you understand that what you just said violated the court's ruling? Do you understand that you're walking a tightrope on the issue of ethical conduct or unethical conduct? I want to examine the issue, consider the issue to see whether or not this is going to waste the court's time or hurt or harm the opposing party's case. For instance, I'd like to know what the effect and ramifications of this conduct is, but we have to be careful to only report lawyers who are intentionally, I think, violating the rules of ethics.
Thank you. Following question. Who are your judicial role models and why? Ms. Leslie Gutierrez.
I admire Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg for many reasons. She was an advocate for women. She was an advocate for women's rights. And the way in which she advocated for women was so clever because she took cases with men as plaintiff because she knew that the bench at the time, the Supreme Court at the time, would relate to a plaintiff who was men. And she was able to change the laws and she was able to push for women and obtain more rights for women because of her cleverness. And there's a saying that a quote from her, which she says that fight for the things that you care about, but do so in a manner that leads others to join you. And I think that's very important. You can be an advocate, you can be a judge, but I think if you broaden your views and if you bring people in, then it helps create a system that is very inclusive for everyone, a system that people feel that they're a part of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Darden.
I have always held in very high esteem Sandra Day O'Connor. I had the privilege of meeting Justice O'Connor several years ago, and she endorsed a photograph, signed a photograph for me. And it is a photograph that I've kept with me in my office and on my bookshelf for some 25 years. The thing I admired about Justice O'Connor was that she was a swing vote. She wasn't always predictable. She never seemed to subscribe or to get behind one side of an issue or the other. She brought balance to the court. And because she brought balance to the court, many times the court came up with the right decision. And most often the public could have confidence that the issue was carefully adjudicated and discussed and considered by the court. I appreciate Justice O'Connor, the kind of judge who was able to bring both parties, both sides together and reach a consensus.
Thank you, both of you. Now we come to the concluding statements by each candidate, and each of you have 1 minute. The concluding statements will be in reverse order from your opening statements. So we will begin with Ms. Leslie Gutierrez.
Thank you. I believe that diversity on the bench is vital to achieving a system that is viewed as fair and credible and legitimate by our community. It promotes inclusivity by drawing on varied perspective. The hardship that I've gone through as an immigrant, while not as severe as others, have given me a fresh perspective that I think will benefit the bench. As a woman, the experiences that I've gone through as a woman attorney are experiences that will bring a different perspective to the bench. My early exposure to diverse background, different races, different background, maybe someone who is flexible and tolerant. And there is value in having judges who are from different socioeconomic backgrounds. I'm not someone who was born rich. I know what it's like to take the bus in Los Angeles County. I know what it's like to feel discriminated against. And for over a decade, I've been making decisions for you, the people of this state of California, that are fair and well-balanced. And I hope you'll support me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Christopher Darden.
Thank you. I've been walking the halls of the justice system now going on 40 years. I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've been on both sides of the courtroom as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. And I've taken the time, years in fact, to carefully study the law, to learn to teach it, to understand its nuances, to understand what it means and how it should be implemented. I'm endorsed by the LA County Federation of Unions because unions and the people believe in me. I'm the people's candidate. I don't want to be endorsed by a bunch of rich people or even other people in robes. I want your vote. I want the vote of the average citizen, the average person here in Los Angeles County, because for 40 years I've represented your interest as a prosecutor and as a criminal law defense attorney. I am an advocate for victims, for the poor, for poverty, and for those who cannot stand up for themselves. Vote for me and know that on the bench in my courtroom, in your courthouse, will be a judge who understands life experience and your life experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Margot?
Well, thank you to both of you for making time available to talk with us at the League of Women Voters and participate in this forum. These candidate forums will be broadcast on YouTube, and the links will be posted on all the LA County League websites. The County League's website is www.lwvlacounty.org. The League of Women Voters also provides a free website for all candidates for county and other offices on the March primary ballot. It is called Vote 411. Please look there for profiles of the candidates for county office and state office as well. You can make a plan to vote by entering your address and accessing your specific ballot on Vote 411. And thank you this evening, and have a good rest of the weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.